This is the voice of freedom. We are not one voice. We are many. We are your voice. But we can only be effective if you use your voice. Your voice. This is the voice of freedom. We will not hide from the truth. We will ask the hard questions until we are sure we have the truth. Welcome to the voice of freedom, where your voice will never be silenced. Welcome to the show, folks, and how nice it is if you happen to be watching on the Nun2K YouTube channel to be back on it. It's the first time in a couple of weeks that we've actually been allowed. So nice to be back. Nice to have you. If you didn't find us before this, you've missed out on the birth of at least 2 new channels. I'll figure out a way to let you know more about those maybe as the night progresses. A little bit of housework before we get into tonight's guest. Last night, Mark, thanks for joining us. Yes, last night, had a few personal problems last night, Mark, and weren't able to get back to my studio in time. I just had to look after my daughter last night. There was an issue, so we just had to sort that out. My apologies to everybody who was hanging off my every word that didn't materialize last night. But as you'd understand, family comes first, so had to do that last night. Sorry for letting everybody down. We try very hard not to do that, and it happened at really late notice. So Glenn was very forgiving, and we will have him back on again. Well, fingers crossed. If it's not tomorrow night, then certainly over the weekend. Notice my new glasses? New glasses. They're not fitting very well. Going to have to take them back. Not happy. All right, let's get on to it. Now, this is a lady we've been trying to get a hold of now for, well, the better part of 3 weeks, I've got to say. Her schedule is mind-blowingly busy. My schedule has been mind-blowingly busy, and I've been difficult to get a hold of. Finally, we've managed to get our books together. I've had so many people talk to me about what's happening financially in the world at the moment. We are not going to talk Nasara and Jasara tonight, folks, so don't get excited. But what we are going to do is talk finances. Now, it's all opinion. Particularly if you hear anything to do with finances come out of my mouth, it's definitely only opinion. But tonight we are joined by Cass Smith from Canberra. Cass, rather than me trying to go through the very large list that you gave me here to start writing down before, welcome to the Voice of Freedom. Maybe you can start off by letting our listeners know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Carl, and thanks so much for the invitation to come on tonight.
No worries.
So, yes, Cass Smith, I'm from Canberra, and yes, I've had a very varied background in the financial world. I basically refer to myself perhaps as maybe savant or autistic in type of financial matters because it's all that's ever obsessed me since the age of about 12. So I progressed to become an accountant for 30 years, a mortgage broker for 30 years, a financial planner for 20 years, a real estate agent, a property advisor, justice of peace, probably a few other things that I've forgotten myself.
Wow.
Where I am, it's all I've ever done. I've just had an absolute fascination with the financial world and with wealth creation and all things wealth, property, shares, you name it, I've done it. And here I am now. I've also been a very active part of the freedom movement in Canberra, not that there's many of us here.
Yeah, they're hiding. They're just sleeping under the trees and in the gutters at the moment, unfortunately, but they're around.
Yeah, true. So I was part of the movement when we started with only 20 at our first rally, and then 30, and then 40, and then the million that came. So
yeah,
absolutely powerful. And anyway, my whole world's turned on its head because everything I've told people about wealth creation, money, tax, finances, property is done 100% about face. And I'm now telling everybody not to do what I would have told you to do for the last 30 years.
Wow, that must be a really significant change for you to come to terms with, being such a dedicated, as you were from such a young age, to the financial world, to have it all turned on its head. In what sort of a time frame did this get turned on its head to you?
Started about February 2020.
Wow, yep, okay. And you've gone 180 degrees.
Yeah, and I had seen what was coming for quite some time. I just didn't know how it was going to come.
Yeah.
So I've basically known for the last 10 years that the economic cycle that we're in is on a path to destruction and going to completely collapse. I just didn't know how until February 2020.
Yeah. Okay. And when the penny dropped, what was your first immediate reaction?
I think I sat in my office, particularly during the lockdowns. I still came to my office, the freedom fighter that I am. I still came to my office. None of my staff did. I'd sit here in my office all by myself, just contemplating, well, what now?
Yeah.
And how everything that I've ever thought is about to crumble. What should people do to protect themselves? And just contemplated and contemplated and contemplated. And I'm sure we'll go on to talk about property, share market, gold and silver. But yeah, it took me probably the greater part of the whole 2 years to finally arrive at what I've arrived at now, where
Hmm.
basically I believe there's only one safe asset class to be in. Only one.
Only one. Wow. Okay, so that's probably going to pick a few people's ears up at the moment. A lot of the questions that I've received through email and personally have been related to superannuation.
Yes.
People are obviously very concerned about this superannuation, and there are many stories coming out of America that the big superannuation corporations over there are broke, that all the money is gone, and that those people expecting to get a retirement aren't going to.
Yes.
I don't know that that's happening here, but that's
Not
certainly not
yet.
something we'd like to hear about.
Yeah, so superannuation's been probably the number one topic that we're working with people all day, every day at the moment, because it is an area where you can do something. You can do something to help yourself.
Yeah,
So I released a video on YouTube that went kind of viral. If anyone wants to see it, it's under Cass Smith YouTube. Where basically I just came into my office one day and said, I've got to get this message out there, because a lot of people don't understand that superannuation is in the share market.
yeah,
So a lot of people don't know or care about the share market. They are, yeah, whatever. But when you realize that all the money you've worked for to accumulate in your superannuation is all in the share market, that's when people start realizing, oh, well, hang on. Well, what happens if the share market crashes? What happens to my superannuation? And my
mm,
answer to that, and yeah, as Carl said, none of this is financial advice. Um, the one activity I've quit has been a financial planner. I'm not a financial planner anymore. I might explain the reasons for that a bit later. So it's not financial advice, but I can say factually that if the share market crashes to, let's say it crashes 80%, which is absolutely feasible, it's happened before, then everybody's
sure, yep,
superannuation is down 80%. There is also a possibility that it's gone altogether, because if the share market, some of the things we're seeing coming down from all the things that we're seeing is that there could be a complete economic destruction of the whole economy. And in that case, all of the superannuation is gone. So there are things you can do to protect that superannuation and take control of it.
great. I've got to say, I've worked in radio most of my life, and uh, well, I can think of two radio stations that I've worked for that didn't pay superannuation at all, even though they were meant to. At the end of the day, my super contributions have been only what I've ever had to put in, because I've never had any extra money to go throwing into it. And my current superannuation at 55, 56 years of age is less than $30,000. So my superannuation to me is just something that I might get one day. I'm appalled by it, but it's the industry I've worked in, and then I've
Yeah.
worked for myself, and I haven't applied correctly money to superannuation. I've applied it in other areas, but I thought I was creating wealth in other ways, but turns out that was bullshit too. Um, I'm not the bloke to listen to when it comes to finances. So I'm very interested in what you have to say. And there are a lot of people in the same boat as me, I've discovered, that don't have very much by way of super. Certainly not enough to go living off for the, 20, 30, 40 years they might live after they actually retire. I've got enough to live off maybe for a year if I'm very, very lucky. And that'll be it. So
Yeah.
I've never relied on it. I've never actually concerned myself with retiring. I work in an industry where as long as I can still speak, I can probably still work.
Mhm.
But what do people in a position with well, better super than me? What can you do? It's my understanding your super is locked away until you get to the ripe old age of, and then you can access it. There's not really much you can do to help yourself, but that's wrong.
There is. There is. So it is locked away in the superannuation system until you're 60. But there's something that a lot of people are now starting to look into called self-managed superannuation funds. So I've been absolutely fortunate because for the last 20 years, I've specialised in self-managed super funds. So I've loved them right since from 20 years ago. I put my young children in them. They were only 3 and 4 at the time, and now the kids 18 and 20 and 21, and they've got 30, 40,000. They've got, sorry, more than you in superannuation, Carl, because I put them in it
Yeah.
so young and I help
Yep.
contribute. So
Yep.
I've been doing self-managed super funds for 20 years. I loved them. They're the bee's knees. And then now it's come to this point in time where the self-managed super fund is the solution to everybody's worries about the share market, because you can, and we can help with that, set up a self-managed super fund, roll the money out of the other systems into a bank account that you control, and then you can invest in assets that you choose. So you're
Right. So
taking the
this isn't.
money out
Yep. You're
of
not saying I
of
can access the money. So we
no,
don't put it into a bank account that I can access with a key card or anything like that. It's still locked
no.
away, but it's invested in a different manner.
It's a bank account you can access on internet banking. But what you have to do is
Right.
then invest it in an asset that's for your retirement. So you can't take it out and pay your bills and buy a car and go on a holiday.
Yep.
It's all got to be used for your retirement. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's how it works. Is you getting the money out of the system. And when I say out of the system, your superannuation is basically in cyberspace. The money that
Yep.
you is on your statement is just a number on a piece of paper that's in a cyberspace system, and it's invested across all sorts of funds. I won't mention the names on here because it might get your channel into trouble, but there's some
Hmm.
particular investment companies in the world that we don't like at the moment,
Yep.
and a lot of the superannuation funds are in those companies. So when I say take it out of where it is, you're taking it out of those nasty companies and putting it
Yep.
into a bank account that you control, and then buying an asset that you control. And the assets predominantly at the moment are what I call physical assets, not
Yep.
digital.
Yep.
So property and gold and silver. And then you
Right.
control that. So you have a physical asset, which is something that when they push the button and reset everything, or if the whole economy goes belly up, you have those physical assets.
So you accurately point out that with your superannuation, or in fact your share balance, it's just a number on a piece of paper. There isn't any cash associated with that hidden away in a bank vault that's got your name on it or anything there.
Correct.
Now, how does that alter? I've just lost the train of what I was going to say there for a minute. If we are buying gold and silver, and let's say, for instance, we can get out my piddly little, 20 something odd $1,000 worth of super, uh, and we buy silver with it. Do I physically hold the silver, or is that just another piece of paper that says, "Oh, Carl, you've got some silver"?
No, you physically hold it, and that's the key.
Yeah,
You physically pick it up, the gold and silver, and you hold it in your own safe. So therefore, you're out of the digital system.
yeah,
You now have a physical asset that no matter what they do, you have that physical asset. And that's the key. And
great,
that's what we're helping people do all day, every day. And you can imagine the relief on people's face when they get that money out, get this physical asset that they can hold and look at and know that they can keep that safe in their own possession. It's an amazing
absolutely.
concept. And
Pick
yeah,
me.
yeah, it's now spreading
Yeah,
like wildfire. We are getting an overwhelming amount of inquiries, but we're handling them. We'll put on more staff. We'll take everyone we can get, because this is the most important thing anyone can do to protect their future, is get that money out of the system and get it into a physical asset.
So once you've got it into a physical asset and you've got a bar of silver, somebody in the chat has raised an interesting question. Who's going to cash it? So what do you do? Is it like the old days? You get your sword out, you chop a chunk of it off, you go to the metal merchant and weigh it up?
Yeah, so the gold dealers are there, and they've been around for 6,000 years. In fact, when we think back to the history of mankind, the blacksmiths and the goldsmiths were the first industries. So I think no matter what
Yep.
happens, the goldsmiths will be there. And currently, the way it is at the moment, you simply take it back to the dealer. They give you the spot price of gold back that day. It's a very easy exchange. It's a very, what we call, liquid asset, in that it's very easy just to cash it back in.
And the spot price of silver at the moment is pretty good compared to gold. Gold, we of course know, is pretty high. We're actually wondering where Australia's gold assets are at the moment, whether they're in Australia or actually in the UK.
I think we've lost them,
But
haven't we?
silver, yeah, they do seem to have disappeared into the ether somewhere. Silver, our silver assets. Do we have a big silver industry here in Australia? We mine a lot of silver.
I'm not actually sure about the mining side of it. I'm, as I said, totally focused on the money side of it. But you're right, the
Sure.
silver price is quite depressed at the moment. Like it was down 20%. It might have picked up a little bit now. And that's just a great time to buy.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of talk about digital currency going forward. So if you were to trade out of the superannuation into the precious, because it doesn't have to be gold or silver, there are other precious metals you can invest in too, aren't there?
Yes, there are. There's palladium and another one, platinum. There's not as much research or history on those two. So I have got a little bit of them just because I like trying things. But gold and silver are the ones that have got the big history, particularly gold. It's been around 6,000 years. Gold was our initial currency, and there's a lot of talk that we'll go back to the gold currency. And when we talk about what's happening with Russia at the moment, Putin is already moving towards going back to the gold standard, and he's forcing the rest of the BRICS, for those that don't know that, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa,
South Africa.
onto the gold standard. So that's more
Yeah.
than 50% of the world's economy. When that comes to fruition, there's a lot of talk at the moment about the US currency just dissolving, going belly up. And if that happens with the US, Australia's not far behind it.
So can the gold and silver market be manipulated by those that own most of it, like the oil market, for instance? Who owns the gold and silver markets? How does that work?
Well, it's more a matter of who's buying all of the gold and silver. And what we do know is that those countries I just mentioned before, the BRICS countries, are stockpiling, particularly China, stockpiling
Yeah,
more
big
and
time.
more and more gold at the moment. And that is also a sign of the things to come. The countries are buying it up so that when we go back to the gold standard, the countries that have the most gold will be the ones that come out on top. So it's scary. It really is scary times. And I don't think a lot of people are really paying enough attention to what's coming down the line financially. As I said, what happened in February 2020 was all part of what they're doing to the financial system. I have a theory, call it a conspiracy theory, that the economies were going to collapse anyway. As I said, I saw it coming 10 years ago. So the economies were going to collapse because of the level of debt. They didn't want that to happen and take the blame for it. So they've gone and done a nice little thing. And the war in Russia, now they can just turn around and go, oh, well, it wasn't our fault.
No, they can blame that. Yeah. It seems such a tiny country, Ukraine. Such a tiny country has such a huge effect on the global economy of everything. I mean, we've got supply chain issues because there's a war in Russia or war in Ukraine. I don't know how much of our stuff comes through Ukraine before it gets to our shores, but I can't imagine
Not
much of it.
much, not much at all. But it's
No.
a very convenient excuse. You blame the pandemic and you blame Russia, and that's it. You've got an excuse for the economic collapse that they created. So what the economic collapse is coming because of the trillions and trillions of dollars that they've printed. You can't
Yes.
just print money off a print machine and expect everything to be okay. There is only one way out of where we're at, and that is a collapse.
Yeah. If people are invested in the stock market and it collapses, we have seen collapses before, and certainly since I've really been aware of the stock exchange, I've seen it collapse maybe 2 or 3 big times, where people have compared it to the worst, the Great Depression, all that back in the late 20s and early 30s in America, and yet the market seems to bounce back almost as rapidly as it falls. Don't you only lose money if you're invested in shares if you sell at the bottom of the market? And why would
Absolutely.
Big Super sell those shares at the bottom of the market if they didn't have to?
Yeah, absolutely correct. But the bounce back is not as quick as you just said. So after the GFC, when the market lost about 50%, very, very quickly, over a matter of weeks, it took 10 years to recover. And back in the 1920s and 30s, it took 30 years to recover. And I believe, and it's not just coming from me. I read every financial magazine, every bit of information that comes through on the financial world. It's not me saying this. It's actually some really high-level economists, mainly out of the US, that are saying this, that it'll be an 80% crash, and it may take decades, maybe even longer than 30 years this time to come back. So anyone, even in their 30s or 40s, doesn't have the time to recover before retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear what you're saying.
Mm.
There's a lot of people who are asking about your services, and if you want to give your website a plug now, then please go ahead for it. I'm just having a bit of a look at seeing what other questions there are. So, not that we're winding up, but how can people find out more about you, or how can they contact you? We've obviously got a bit of interest here, and I'm at the head of the line. All right, just pointing that out.
All right, so Cass Smith on Facebook, but I'm at my 5,000 friends limit, and I'm currently in prison again.
Oh, good girl, good girl. I'm only out after 30 days, and I was out a day. I got another 6, but I'm just off that again, so I'm
Yeah,
proud of
so
you. Stick with it.
you can find me on there and message me. The name of the business is, and I must also say here, I've had to step away from my business to basically protect the business, because a bit like the doctors speaking out, get delicensed, etc. So I've had to step down. I set up my own firm. As I said, fascination with the financial world. I set up my own firm 20 years ago. It's like my baby. I've just raised it as a toddler right through to fruition. But I've had to step down from CEO and step down as a director, and just be basically a freelance consultant just to protect the firm. But the firm still exists, and great bunch of people that can help you. And it's called Holistic Financial Solutions, and that's holistic with a W. So Holistic Financial Solutions. Google that, you'll find us. We come up pretty easy. You can call and make an appointment. There's also a bookings button on the website, which is the easiest. You just book in. If you pick an initial consult, free of charge, that'll come through to me. You can see my calendar and you can book in. Is there a way I can put that in the chat box? Is there a way I can put chat?
Yeah, if you want to type those details into our little private chat, I can copy
Private
and
chat,
paste them
and
and drop them up in the chat.
Yep, I'll do that right
absolutely.
now. But yeah, we
so
want to help everyone we can, because, and it's coming really quick. I think that's the other thing we need to talk about, Carl, is timelines.
Yeah. Well, yep, sure. When we're discussing timelines, I guess we've always got to be a bit careful, but folks, take this for what it is. We are offering you opinion here, and if you want to learn more about it, there are ways to do that. We are not offering you financial advice. Certainly I'm not. I've never been a financial professional. Run from me if I start giving you financial advice, I would say, or tell me to stop drinking. Because I've had far too much. It's never going to be good. I'll just get Cass's website up and drop it in the chat so everybody can check it out there. It's in the chat there now, folks, either under None2K or Voice of Freedom. Just click on the link and you'll be able to go to the website and follow Cass's advice there. All right, Cass, so I'm pretty intrigued. What about digital currency? We're hearing a lot about digital currency at the moment. Does that have anything to do with the silver you're about to, uptrade me into from my super?
Yeah, so the digital currency fund, basically anyone that's been following anything that's coming out through all the channels is that they're trying to channel us into a digital currency. They want no cash, cashless society. That was all part of the plan, started in February 2020 as well, is to get rid of cash so that we're just tapping our cards everywhere we go, so that then we can move into a completely digital currency, so that the governments can then watch every single cent we spend, where we go, what we do, leading on to the social credit system where we're under complete control. We've seen it coming. China's got it. So one important thing to know is that in the US, Biden has already released an executive order that in December, I think it's late December, is the day they push the button and go cashless.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So they have already set the date to say no more cash after this date. Some then say that will lead into the collapse of everything, because a lot of, hopefully a lot of people will wake up at that stage and say, hey, that's not what I want. So hopefully some eyes will be open. So that's one particular date we talk about is December, but other people are saying, and yeah, once again, dates mean nothing, may or may not happen, but there are some people saying that the banks are preparing for something major next Friday.
Okay. There has been a lot of things going on, well, behind the public view of the banking system at any rate. I'm not sure even if Koshi on Sunrise is aware of what is going on, or certainly he's pretending not to be aware if that is the case. But for some time now, there has been another system running in parallel, or we believe, with the current financial system. Have you heard anything about that?
Are you referring to the Nasara Jasara or?
Well, I don't know if that's Nasara Jasara. The quantum financial system
Yeah,
is,
quantum financial system.
yeah. I don't know if they are necessarily the same thing, but certainly a
No, they're
change in
not.
the way, the way the banking systems are operated and
So the quantum
controlled, I
financial
believe.
system, I'm not an expert on it, but from my understanding, is that basically it's the digital currency. It's where absolutely everything is going through one world bank, one world currency, one big digital central system. So at the moment, instead of like you log into ANZ and you transfer to CBA, it will all just be one system.
Yeah,
And then
right.
that they will release, and it is all part of their agenda to have absolutely every transaction everywhere just trackable within the instant. The moment you buy something at the supermarket, they know that instantly.
And I don't know that people fully understand that it has influences. Like I don't know what about you. My grandmother, or certainly one of my aunties, used to give us for Christmas, the kids, every year, packets of 50-cent pieces wrapped together. We might get $5 or $10 worth of 50-cent pieces. And, we thought we were millionaires because there was
Yeah,
all this change running around. There'll be no more of that because there'll be no more coins to give away. There'll be no more paying the kid on the end of your street to mow your lawn, and giving him $25 or $50 for mowing your lawns, because there won't be any cash to do that. That kid will get taxed if
yeah,
they have their way. Essentially, that's what's going to happen, won't it?
absolutely. And no more. I just thought of another one. No more swear jars.
No more swear jars. Yeah. Wow. Well, I can tell you the Bosey household won't be happy to hear that.
So yeah, when it comes to that sort of thing, and another topic worth talking about is the fact that you can't get money out of the bank at the moment. You go
Yep.
into the bank and try and get $5,000. Good luck to you. Because I'm talking to like 20 people every day, I'm hearing so many stories. One lady was going in and just getting out 5,000 at a time. She had a lot of money. She'd sold a house, had close to $1 million. She was
Yeah,
trying to
right.
get out just 5,000 at a time. And she was telling the bank it was to buy secondhand furniture. Anyway, she went back in again and they said, no, sorry, we've frozen your accounts. You're on fraud watch and we're not giving you any more money till you prove that you've been buying furniture.
Wow.
And this is happening. It's even happened to myself. I went in before Christmas, wanted $10,000. And they said, "What's that for?" And I said, "It's Christmas. I'm giving my kids Christmas presents."
Yeah.
And they literally said to me, "Oh, haven't they got a bank account you can just transfer it to?" And I said, I want to give my kids money I want to give them something on Christmas Day, not an electronic transfer. Give me my money." And they
Yeah.
did, but it's getting harder and harder and harder. And all of that is leading to another scary topic, which is when we get to the point where basically it's happened in China. You'd go a run on the banks. The banks don't have enough money. They only have about 10% of all the money that people have put in the bank. They've only got 10%. So if 11% of the people want their money back, the bank's gone. The bank's bankrupt. They close the bank, they freeze the bank. And with the difficulty of getting cash out at the moment, I think that's all preparing for them to get to the point where they say, no, you can't withdraw anymore.
Yeah. Well, I did hear that in China recently, tanks were on the streets because the people had discovered that their banks had taken their savings and reallocated them as investment
Yes,
money or
yes,
investment portfolio money or something like
yes,
that, and therefore took away the people's access to their own money.
yes. And that is exactly what, so it's called the Bail-in Act. So people ask me, would that happen in Australia? And I go, they've already passed the legislation to allow it to happen. It's called the Bail-in Act, where basically we could literally wake up, maybe next Friday, and they say to us, "No, I'm sorry, your money is now." So let's say you've got $10,000 in Commonwealth Bank. No, sorry, you now have $10,000 worth of shares in Commonwealth Bank that can't be
Mm.
redeemed until such time as we say so. So that has happened in China. It has happened in other countries, and they've passed legislation to allow it to happen in Australia.
So, what happens if we escalate, as Angela is suggesting here, and head to the banks and start trying to withdraw money? It'll put a run on them. It's clear the
Absolutely.
banks don't have money. What would be the upshot to us, the people doing that? Do you think if we started that tomorrow?
Well, I'm hoping that all the people that are listening to this and all the people in the like-minded communities go and get your money out, because we're probably not the 10%, but so we all get our money out, and then I guess it's not our problem what happens to everyone else.
No,
Is that a bit
exactly right.
like hoarding toilet paper?
Well, at least you'll be able to afford it. Um, and look, given some of the things you're saying, I wouldn't be at all surprised if the banks or the government decided to turn some of our money just into toilet paper. And they'll allocate it to you like they used to in East Germany years ago.
Yeah,
I only
absolutely.
hope it stays. I only hope it stays softer, because having used German toilet paper years ago, I can tell you it's more like rolls of sandpaper than anything else. But there was certainly no
So,
softness.
so back to the Bail-in Act, it also applies to money in superannuation, which is another reason to get the money out of the system and into your own physical possession, so that they can't use that Bail-in Act just to take it all away.
Sure. People are asking in the chat, did you mean next Friday, the 5th, as in tomorrow, or Friday the 12th, being
Friday the
next
12th.
Friday the
Friday
12th?
the 12th.
Righto. So keep your eyes and ears open there. Obviously, we're led in a great way by what happens in America. Our market, I remember, has been crashed by one person previously, a person obviously of great wealth who decided to put a run on the Australian dollar and really, really crashed the Australian dollar. I think dropped us down to below 60 cents. Now, this was just one very wealthy individual who decided to make money off the back of the Australian dollar by crashing it. Um, I've never had a great deal of respect for a system that would allow an individual, or even a number of individuals, to do that sort of thing to another country's currency. Um, if the system crashes, as you're predicting, do you think it will recover at all? And
No,
if it does recover, what will, or even if it doesn't recover, we're still going to need something to replace it with. What do you think that will be?
I know exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So as I said, they've been planning this for a long time, and then the answer, they create a problem, then create the solution. So the problem, 2020, has created a very, very big problem, which is going to continue to lead to this financial collapse I'm talking about. So everything collapses, the whole economy, the digital, the banking, everything collapses. Perhaps a period of extreme chaos, extreme calamity. Then they're going to swoop in with the solution. Hey, we're here to help you. We have a new digital currency we can give to you all. Universal basic income. We'll pay you money to stay at home. Everything's good. We'll give you food. We're here to look after you. Big brother. We're here to protect you. All you have to do is take our endless cycle of shots in the arm and do everything that you're told, obey everything that we want you to do, and we'll solve all your problems for you.
Yeah, yeah. Very good question here from DJ. If money equals nothing and has no value, why bother withdrawing it? We'll all be busted with useless paper.
Yes, correct, which is why I wouldn't have too much cash. I say have enough cash for trading, like maybe a month or two. The
Yep.
rest should be in gold and silver.
Yep. So so you've got that asset backed in something solid.
Yeah,
A lot of
absolutely.
people here, lot of people here are referring to Sri Lanka and what's happened there. Now, China, of course, played a role in that current financial disaster that's going on in Sri Lanka through their Belt and Road project. I'm not sure that people are aware, but China financed the building of a huge port in Sri Lanka, a port that the Sri Lankans couldn't afford, and sure enough, have fallen behind on the payments of. And that, through the Belt and Road Agreement, has led to much greater Chinese control in Sri Lanka, particularly in financial markets. So we're seeing, huge unrest and dare I say, chaos at times in Sri Lanka. Is this a foretelling of what you were saying before, that, when it crashes, we may have just that sort of exercise happening here in our streets?
Absolutely. And with Sri Lanka, it's funny how we've stopped hearing what's going on over there. It's all gone quiet on the media. It's like, that we had the total collapse. We saw the videos of them going into the Parliament House and swimming in their pool. After that, it's all just gone quiet. But from what I have heard, the whole problem's been solved. The new government has come in, put them on the digital currency and the moving towards the digital ID and all of that. So exactly what's happened in Sri Lanka, I believe, is coming here as well.
And this is the thing you're predicting to come before the end of this year, potentially.
Yeah, I believe I've been saying from basically probably about October, November last year was when I really started realizing that this whole reset this collapse is coming. I, at the time, said sometimes they use a war, the breakout of a war, to make it all collapse. So then when the Russia war started, I went, oh, here we go. But we still haven't collapsed. But we're getting rumblings of worse wars, which I don't think will happen, but we are getting signs that there are things happening with Taiwan and China, etc., etc. I believe these are all just rumblings heading towards a very quick collapse. So I don't know if next Friday is really a date that will happen. I just put it out there because people are saying that date, and sometimes it's good to be prepared. But as we head towards September, December, I really think we're going to see blood on the streets.
All right. Well, it's something we should all be very careful of. Somebody's asked, how do you trade or buy gold and silver for food? So if you want to go back to the start of the broadcast, we covered that there. But there are gold or precious metal traders, and they have been around, as Cass has said, for 6,000 years. So you take a bit of your gold or your silver in there, and they weigh it up, and they'll give you whatever the daily rate for that for gold is, and you will walk out with whatever cash or coin is required to be the trading tool of the day. I think that's what it's going to be, isn't it, Cass?
Yeah,
We're not going to
absolutely.
walk in and pay for it in little, gold dust packets like they did in days
Yeah.
of yore.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if there is a period of time, like when I said, if it all goes into complete chaos, there may be a period of time when the gold dealers aren't there. But literally, we can trade with each other. So the people I talk to when we talk about how to buy gold and silver, it's also buying it in different quantities. So you can literally buy like a bar of chocolate, a gold big block 50 grams from ABC bullion, but it's broken up into little 1 gram chunks. So you could literally just break off a 1 gram chunk every time you wanted to do
Oh,
something.
okay.
Yeah. Silver
Yeah.
coins, they're only worth about $38 at the moment. A silver coin for a bag of food. You know, there may come a time when we're trading literally in the physical metals. And that's the way it was. That's where money started. They used to trade in gold.
Yeah, sure. One of our viewers, PC Gamer, has said he buys his gold and silver from KCJ Bullion, and they're in Sydney. So I'm not in Sydney. If I had money to buy gold and silver, and let's say you work your magic, we get control of my super, and this is what we do. How do I have to go to Sydney to get it? Is there a way to get whatever it is that I buy sent to me? Is that
Yep.
the right way to do things? Is that secure? Do I
Yeah.
need to go and hire a Brinks truck for my, 2 gold bars or my 27 silver ones or whatever it works out to be? These are really naive questions, but I
No,
am
they're good
extremely
questions.
naive in this regard. I have no understanding, and we've been deliberately not taught about how to trade gold or silver or precious metals.
Absolutely.
I don't ever remember a class that I went to that talked about this in any depth, in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that question. And I show people every day. It's probably the favorite part of my consultation when I'm talking to people is I show you online how to do it. It's internet shopping. You go to the website, you pick what you want, you put it in your cart, you pay for it, and then you go pick it up. And if you're not close enough to a capital city, so there's other dealers. There's ABC Bullion. They are in Victoria, Sydney, and Brisbane. There's the Perth Mint in WA. There's As Good as Gold in Adelaide. But all of them, you can either order online and pay for it and pick it up, which I love doing. I love the thrill of getting my stash and running down the street. But they also deliver as well. So, and it's insured till the moment it gets into your hands. It's costly to get the delivery, but either way, pick it up, get it delivered. I'll tell you a funny story. Sometimes I'll go to Sydney and buy some gold and silver for clients and friends. And I didn't realize when I went there last Friday that I'd actually ordered 80 kilos of silver.
Oh, wow.
That's very heavy.
Yeah.
And there was only
you don't
two
want to
of
load
us.
that you don't want to load that in the back of your Honda Jazz. Hello, Don.
There was only two of us, and we only had backpacks. So
Oh, wow.
we're trying to walk down the streets of Sydney like we're casual, and we'll just walk out with all this silver, and I could hardly walk. It was so funny. But anyway, we got to the car. So if you're ordering silver, just keep an eye on the weight. It can get quite heavy.
Yeah. It sounds like you're going to wind up doing that SAS course for Channel 7 next year.
Could do.
Lugging that sort of weight around. I'm just having a bit of a scale through here just to check out. A lot of people are mentioning having trouble getting money out of the banks. I know personally, I have a friend who has been going to the bank now, I think, for about the last 7 weeks, and every week tries to remove somewhere between $6,000 and $9,500, and they're buying precious metal with it. Now, the banks at every turn are refusing in the first instance to give her the cash when she first turns up. And now she has a regular booking with them so that they have the cash on hand to give her. But every time she goes in, they want to know what she's using it for. She's telling them that she's doing renovations and building a house, and she's paying the builders bit by bit as they go. So unless they want to drive halfway up a mountain and find her, then they're not really going to be able to find any difference in that. People are very concerned about the future going forward. So I think tonight you're going to get a lot of reaction from people who are very keen to get their money out of super. Didn't like myself. Most people thought once your money's in super, it's in super. That's all there is you can do. And if you're anything like me, the words self-funded super or self-managed super, I mean, I have a hard enough time managing my weekly grocery shopping. I can't imagine the difficulty in managing something that large. But it is education, as with everything, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you give us the skills to learn how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And basically the way it works is we, as an accounting firm, we do it all for you. All the
Wow.
management.
Yeah.
What you manage really is just you decide what to invest in, and you go and get the gold and silver. All of the complex paperwork is done by the accountant. So that's what makes it easy. Back to your point about getting the money out of the bank, that lady's lucky that they're letting her do that without the invoices, because that's where we're getting to now. I tried to buy
Yeah.
a Jeep.
Wow.
I tried to buy a Jeep, and the bank would not transfer the money to the Jeep dealer without the invoice. And then because I was buying in a trust, they wanted the
Oh,
trust deed to prove that I was the trustee of the trust. And that's personal
wow.
confidential tax information.
Yeah.
But I wanted the Jeep. So I gave them my personal trust deed. Like, that's where we're getting to. So when it comes to getting our money out of the bank, back to gold and silver, that's the easiest way. Because you
Yeah.
do an order with the online bullion dealer, you BPay straight out of the bank. The bank doesn't get a chance to say yes or no because BPay goes straight through.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I understand how that works then. Right. Okay. Fair enough. Well, I can't see too many more questions here at the moment. No, let me just go back into a couple that I've started up. Somebody wants to know what your thoughts are on Ricardo Bosie's 2% expenditure tax idea. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yeah, very familiar with that. I think it's a great idea, and hopefully it's the way we can go forward with the country, because don't get me started on politics. I also ran for United Australia Party in the last election. They had some great policies as well, capping the interest rates at 3%. But anyway, we didn't win. Bossy didn't win. We're stuck with what
Yeah.
we're stuck with, and we're on the path to destruction, because anyone that follows the government and the debt and the politics, there's $1 trillion debt, and they don't even talk about it.
Mm,
They don't even
mm.
talk about it.
Yeah,
So
hiding that a lot, aren't they? Yeah.
yeah, there's an elephant in the room, and they just ignore it. It's going to cripple our country. So yeah, Bossy's on the right track, and hopefully
And
at some stage very soon, we can get some more intelligent people into that the
yeah,
government.
there's a lot of elephants in that room. It's bloody hard to imagine there's room for anything else. There's so many elephants in that room.
Absolutely.
Another question from Bill. Well, not so much a question, but a statement. Don't buy counterfeit metals. Beware of that. So there is a possibility that if you're not careful, you don't go to a reputable metals dealer,
Hmm.
that you could lose your money here. Do you know much about that, Cass?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some here, so I've bought it for fun. So this is a counterfeit one,
Oh,
but it looks
wow.
very much like the real one. So you do need to be careful. So a bit like if you were building a house, you'd use a licensed builder. If you're buying a car, you'll use a licensed car dealer. Just make sure the gold companies are licensed gold dealers. I can imagine with everything going on at the moment, there's probably some dodgy websites popping up. Check into the history of the company, make sure they've been around a long time and they're licensed. That's why I stick to ABC Bullion, KJC Gold, As Good As Gold. They've been around a long time.
Um, Clearly, a lot of people are much more aware of this than I am. Is there a tax implication if you're one of these folks? Not that I've ever been tempted. That's a lie. I've been tempted many times to go and grab a metal detector and head out into the bush and try and find my fortune buried under a gum tree somewhere. Um, what happens with gold that is found by folks who are out there, fossicking for it?
That's great. They found gold. There's no way,
Right.
like, that's the legal way of finding gold, and you get to own it and keep it. But I think that's a pretty hard way to go about building wealth, though, Carl. I probably wouldn't advise that.
No, no, I'm sure there are much easier ways of doing it. But hey, listen, for a lot of people, it's the thrill of the hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people on here
And
are asking about property. Do you want me to cover that off quickly?
yeah, sure, let's get into that.
Yeah, okay. So when it comes to property, I've loved property my whole life. As I said, I started my journey with money back when I was 12. By 17, I'd saved my first house deposit and bought my first house. You can probably see my background. I've written books on property. I've just loved property my whole life, and I've built up big portfolios, and I've advised clients on property. Last year, 50 of my clients bought property. This year, I woke up in March and came into my office and rang my real estate agent, which is part of my company, and said, sell all my properties. Sell the
Wow.
lot. Gone. My whole portfolio.
Wow.
I believe we're also heading into a significant property downturn. So the interest rates have been so low for so long that people have overindulged in property. They've bought McMansions and beautiful houses with pools, and they've gone way above their capacity. And interest rates going up, and they're saying that they're going to increase them every single month until Christmas. I think we'll be up around 6 to 7% by the end of the year. Clive Palmer did economic modelling during the election, and he said that at 4% interest rates, 60% of Australian households will be in distress. At 6% interest rates, 80% of the households will be in distress. That's just the interest rates. Then add the price of fuel, the price of food, and we're in serious trouble. And then we're already seeing it. There was a news article today saying that people are starting to put their homes on the market and go for fire sales because they can't afford their mortgage anymore. And this has just started. So once we get to 5%, 6%, 7%, people will be selling their homes, their holiday homes, their investment properties, and I believe we're going to see a big crash on the market. So yeah, back in April of this year, I just went, no, I'm out, and I sold every property I had.
Wow. Okay. So we clearly have a property issue at the moment. I think in most states there aren't enough of them available, and yet there are some reports that there are 87,000 vacant homes in Queensland that are held by investors that are not rented out for whatever reason. Most of these investors, I believe, come from China, and they hold the property as in a trust or just as a wealth gathering tool. Now, we've seen some huge prices for property here. Rents have gone up unbelievably, hundreds and hundreds of dollars a week. People are being literally turfed out of their rental accommodation because of greedy owners who want to make a renovation and then re-rent the place for $300 or $400 a week, in some cases more than the people that were in it were going to be able to pay. There is not enough property on the coast. If the market crashes, as you say, it's going to leave a lot of people homeless, or there's going to be a lot of empty houses. How's this going to play out?
I have absolutely no idea. It's going to be catastrophic. So people won't be able to afford to have their house anymore. They'll have to sell it. But then on the same hand, they're not going to be able to afford to rent. I see homelessness going through the roof. I see, like, I got asked on a radio station the other day, what is the solution to it? There isn't, other than perhaps we're heading down the way some of the Asian countries are, where whole families will be banking together. People will be selling out of their homes and going back to live with their parents, and parents will be living with their kids, and then the grandkids, and everybody's cramped in together. I saw one story today of a family with 5 kids living in a 1-bedroom hotel. And it's not
I've heard stories of families who've got farms, but the farm mum and dad are on the farm in their aging years. The kids have got off the farm years ago and gone and made their own lives, but are now coming back to the farm, are building houses on the farm, and are going to be living on the farm, not necessarily running it as the farm, but they will obviously keep animals, and I don't know whether or not there'll be too much milking and whatnot going on, but they are going back to the land, and a lot of families are being able to do that because they already own the land. The farm has been in the family for years and years, and getting property approvals on your own land in farming is probably reasonably easy to get, I would imagine. It's pretty easy to say, well, there's a new house block for Junior over there. So is this a way forward? Those sorts of communities.
Yeah, I think it is, Carl, and I'm seeing more and more and more of it. So I'm also working with a lot of people around the country that are coming together to try and form co-ops and communities and buy land and do joint living. Doing a lot of that. In fact, we've got a Facebook Live next Saturday on that very concept. So I'm helping people come together. That's another possible use of superannuation funds, is to put in joint with a lot of other people and buy farming land. And I think it is one of the only way forwards for the like-minded people to all come together, get the land, start growing food, start making accommodation, tiny homes, portable homes, even tents. Even a good quality tent's going to be better than people on the street.
Yep, absolutely. Been a really interesting chat tonight. I can't thank you enough for joining us, Kaz. I know it's taken us weeks to get this to happen. Let's not keep it, that hard to make this happen again. I think people are going to be very interested in hearing more. They'll have a lot more questions for you once they've had time to review this and have a bit of a think about it. I have kept an eye on a couple of questions here. They're not really related to you.
I'd like to answer this one. Is it safe to keep the
Sure.
medals in the vault? No. You've got to
Not
keep
at the
them.
bank. No.
You've got to keep them in your house, because if they're in the vault and we get another lockdown, how are you getting it out of the vault? And there is something that I hear called gold confiscation that some people are worried about. I don't believe that's going to happen. If that happens, we're really we're really at the end of the road. But if it does happen, they'll go to the vaults first.
Yeah.
So my advice absolutely is to get it yourself, put it in your physical possession in a really good safe.
Yeah. And make sure that you don't tell the rest of the world that you've got any of it.
Absolutely. You don't tell anyone, you keep quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll just keep it keep it between you and, well, no one. That's the best way to do it. I would have thought you and no one. I'm really interested in learning more about this, Cass. In fact, I'm really interested in getting involved in it because just the thought of my super makes me sick in the stomach. And it sits there and I can't, and I've assumed I can do nothing with it. So I would love to get in train with you and start this on me. And I can be the guinea pig. If anybody else is out there nervous about it, follow what happens to me. I'll tell you. I'm not shy. It's not like I'm a millionaire. I'll let you know exactly how poor I am. That's fine. So
just to recap on getting in touch with me, Carla's put my website. It's Holistic Financial Solutions with a W. You can book in online, and every time I do one of these lives, I'm literally smashed for the next week. So jump in, book in quick. But yeah, I fit everyone in. I've cut it down to 15-minute appointments now, so that I can just talk to about 20 people a day,
awesome.
Free of charge. Just jump in, come and have a chat, and see what we can do.
Okay, and that's the website up there at the moment, folks. If you want to go on, you'll find the contact page there and be able to get in contact with Kaz there. So some great advice tonight, and I've learnt more about the financial industry tonight than I have in the last 50-odd years.
Good.
I really, really appreciate you taking the time tonight, Cass. Thank you very much for joining us. Excellent. So just hang around for a sec. Thanks, folks, for coming back on. And for the Nun 2K watchers, yes, we are back on Nun 2K. Bosie had us taken off that a couple of weeks ago. I've noticed there has been a few questions about Bosie popping up in the chat tonight. Folks, what don't you understand? I'm not doing a Bosie show tonight. And the questions you're asking, I have no answer for anyway. So if you've got questions about Bosie, when Bosie's on is the night to have those questions. Don't bother pestering me in the chat with them tonight, because I can't tell you anything more about it. And I would have thought you were bright enough to figure that out for yourselves. But maybe not. Who knows? Love your work. It's all been fun. Tomorrow night, we're going to be back with another Friday night free-for-all. All things being equal in a beautiful world, Dave the Guru Graham will be part of that. I'll get a hold of Patriot 101 and we will talk Intel. We have a few bits and pieces that we'd like to share. That's a bit of fun. And of course, like and share this video on the page that you are watching it on. Now, there are a couple of channels that are returning slowly. We've got Nun 2K back. Can't believe Old Voice of Freedom isn't back yet, and neither is just the Voice of Freedom. So at the moment, I think we're just live streaming on Nun 2K and Voice of Freedom. But please like and subscribe to both of them. If we get kicked off one, you'll know that we're on the other, because the notification will still come through. And can really do with your likes and subscribes, folks. It's a bit of an algorithm thing. The more people that like it and subscribe it, the less likely people are likely to miss it. We do get a lot of suppression going on this channel at the moment. And in fact, I was just watching the Nun2K live stream, and that seems to be playing up a little bit. So, you know, they're doing all sorts of things to limit us. Anyway, take care, folks. Thanks for joining us again tonight, and we'll be back again tomorrow night with another night of the Voice of Freedom for you. Stay well, stay happy, and if you're on the roads, there are plenty of dickheads. Please do not be one of them.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!